been more than a year.
Drink some more Diet Coke, you'll be.
Let's go with Dr. Pepper. My daughter makes dirty sodas now. It's like a cream. Yeah, it's like some kind of cream. She's really good at it. You can buy creamer that's made for Dr. Pepper to make a Dr. Pepper dirty soda.
That sounds disgusting.
I've sipped it. It's pretty delicious. All right, let me call the regular Board of Education meeting this July 15, 2025 to order at 7 o'clock. Please silence or turn off any and all electronic devices. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags are back in the room. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Friedland, could you please call roll?
Sure we can. Bianchini?
Here.
Camardo?
Here.
Friedland here. Grimpy?
Here.
Johnson? Here. Pfister? Here. Ronstadt?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda. Looking over the consent agenda, are there any items that a member would like to remove and further discuss, or is there a question of clarification? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety, which includes the following: the Board of Education regular meeting minutes and closed session meeting minutes from June 10th, 2025, the personnel report, the actual payrolls, bills, and checks, travel report, press packet 118, and the NSSEO resolution directing school board representatives to act in accordance with the will of the school board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Friedland, second by Pfister. Please call roll.
Johnson?
Yes.
Camardo?
Yes.
Grimpy?
Yes.
Friedland, yes. Bianchini?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
And Pfister.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving right along, RTA comments. Bob, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening. On behalf of the RTA Executive Committee and the entire membership, I'd like to thank the Board of Education and the administration for the excellent ongoing working relationship we have. I'm really excited because coming up is negotiations. It's always stressful, but it's exciting as well because it's something very unique. It's an extremely unique and wonderful experience. And we've been, our negotiations committee has been meeting. We met last Wednesday, and we're going to meet tomorrow again as well. I talked with Dr. Meggerly, and we're still on track to hope to bring the request to bargain successor agreement in front of the board at the September meeting, and hopefully then start the negotiations right around the end of September, early October, just so we can get the ball rolling around that time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up is visitors' comments. At this time, I'd like to recognize any members of the audience who approach the board with their comment or question by completing a visitor comment card. Please do note that the board and administration typically do not respond, and if you wish for a response, please provide your name and number or email for a member of the board or administration to get back to you. Speakers are encouraged to limit their time for others to participate, a 3-minute time limit per speaker, overall 60-minute maximum for visitor comments per our current policy. Hearing none, we'll move right into board communications. Would anyone like to add anything?
I would love to just sing the praises of summer school. Yet again, I feel like I do this every year, but it was absolutely a wonderful experience. My youngest daughter was able to participate, and she came home with stories every day, so it was delightful, and it was just, I think it's just a really neat learning opportunity for that extended school year piece, and to be able to facilitate those learning opportunities for students who need additional support. So thank you to the staff, and I know Mrs. Van Eck, this was her first year running it, and I heard a lot of positive feedback from other parents who had students participating. So thank you.
I'll just add on to summer programming. So I have an incoming 6th grader. He's even able to attend this week's the second camp at the middle school. He did cooking and gardening. He's doing a nature like biology type type, and he just loves it. He comes home, even though I think he wishes it was a little longer. And last night he told me, "Mom, I'm excited for middle school." So I think it's so nice to have that gap to bridge during the summer. So thank you, and thanks to teachers.
Okay, I don't have any children in school, but I've always advocated for summer school to have enrichment classes for the children in the district who don't need the remedial classes or to catch up. So I really appreciate that you put together a really good comprehensive curriculum for quite a few of the kids to enjoy. And neighbors have commented to me that their kids, like Becky's kids, they're just thrilled. That, and I hope we can continue doing that. I hope we have the dollars to make the enrichment classes, because those are good.
And while we're at it, I just want to thank the board. Almost everyone was there, so thank you. We attended the committee of the whole meeting with the village last week at Burning Bush Trails Park, and hopefully it was a good experience to at least appreciate what we don't have to go through they do it on a weekly basis, we do it on a monthly basis, but it was nice to see everybody there and have a nice representation. I hound the village often about them not doing enough stuff on our side of town, if you will, so it was nice for everyone to show up who could make it when they actually do come to our side of town, so thank you. Anybody else? Okay, moving on, we'll go to new business, construction update.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I feel like last time we had a construction update, it was 2 weeks into construction, and now we don't have a whole new school, but we have half a new school, and it's very exciting. So, just some of the highlights that we've gotten to at Indian Grove so far. We've already got most of the framing in, drywall is going in, ceiling grids and lighting is going in, almost all the underground plumbing is already in, continued work on the roof, and then Euclid, the cafeteria floor has been replaced. So, we started off with demolition, taking down walls, cutting open the door frame so that they're able to put in the new doors. It's cool, they have these machines that come bust through all the cinder blocks, and then another one that just saws it right in half, which is scary and amazing all at the same time. And then they make this big mess. And then they put all this scaffolding in so that all the new walls and the roof doesn't collapse, which is the picture on the right there. And then, as you can kind of see, a before and after of where the nurse's office, well, the nurse's office is just to the right of that left of the picture, but some of the specialist office there. And then they opened it all up, so all those offices were gone. Taking down the ceiling in the cafeteria, doorways in the main office there, you can see all the desk is gone, the ceiling's gone. It's just, really emptied out. Then we continue to the boiler room. There used to be a big boiler in this room, and now it's empty, and it's just got new electrical work. There used to be a chimney on top of the roof. The chimney's gone. No need for a chimney anymore if you don't have a boiler. And then all of a sudden, they start framing, and they start putting up new walls, new studs, bringing in the door frames on the left, putting in the soffits and the ceilings on the right. New brick walls where some of the partition walls were, and then also the picture on the right shows a new wall for a new drinking fountain area near the right outside the gymnasium. This is the new specialist area. This used to be the classroom in kind of the middle wing, and then on the right is the new wall for the new drinking fountains outside the gym a week later. So the wall goes all the way up, the framing's in, the plumbing's in. It's like night and day every time I'm there, every 3 or 4 days. Again, new drywall up all around. You can see the drywall in the classrooms, drywall in the hallways with the new vestibules that we're putting to help keep the heat and the air conditioning within the building. And then the new doorways. They've already painted the wing to the west. We're calling that the C wing. They've already painted most of the classrooms. All the door frames are in. Moving right along. They've started painting already in the middle wing. And then in that far west wing, which is kind of where they started, and they're moving their way east, they've already got marker boards up on some of the walls. Absolutely amazing. The floor is even a little shiny because they put down some of the mitigation process and hope to start putting down some of the flooring in that wing already, which is phenomenal. We also have lights in that wing already in the last wing, the C wing, which will be the orange wing. The green is the middle wing, and then eventually we'll get to painting, and the far east wing is going to be red. But we're moving quickly. So again, ceiling grids, lights. It looks completely different than it did 2 weeks ago, let alone the last time we shared this in June. Underground plumbing, so basically they dig everything up and then they put down, they're able to run their pipes. They put down the yellow moisture barrier, refill it. This is a picture of, the one on the left is the picture right outside the cafeteria. That's kind of what it looks like as of today. The picture on the right is right outside the gym. You can see those double doors were into the gym, and that's where that new wall with the new drinking fountains is.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did we always have underground plumbing?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so this isn't new. I mean, it's not a new concept.
No, it's not. They had to, obviously, they rerouted some of it, which is why they had to dig it up and place it to where the new toilets and sinks would be. But we've always had the underground under the slab plumbing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So then they bring in this, little dump truck, full of concrete, and they make many, many trips and they fill it. So this is infilled on the picture on the left is right outside the gymnasium. The picture on the right is kind of where the nurse's office and those bathrooms in the middle wing used to be. They opened it up, took all those walls, and this is them filling it back in with all the new concrete work. So the picture on the left is them saw cutting the old floor, and then the picture on the right is, the ground right before they kind of put down the new pipe, the new underground sewer pipes. Still working on the roof. They're able to shore up the roof. We've had small groups of the roofers out there, but they're working quickly. They're back on site and shoring up and hopefully getting ready to put all of the new mechanical equipment that's going on the roof the middle of next week. And then the Euclid floor was redone. So the picture on the right is what the floor looks like now. There are some issues with the floor, so we're dealing with those, but overall, it looks much nicer. The new stuff is much better than the VCT. We don't have to strip it and clean it every year. It's really exciting. So overall, we're on schedule, moving right along. There's been a couple little hiccups, nothing extraordinary, nothing that I wouldn't expect during this big of a construction project, and we're very much on track to open on the 2nd. So,
Any questions?
All right, moving on. Next up is the posting of the tentative budget. There's nothing that needs to be presented, so we're really just gonna go right into the motion. This is an action item to instruct Ryan to go ahead and post it publicly. So can I entertain a motion and a second to approve displaying the tentative budget for review and approval of the fiscal year 26 budget timeline? This was discussed at our last meeting, and we can also discuss this if anyone has any questions after we get a motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Johnson, second by Aronson. Any comments or questions? Okay, could you please call roll?
Yes. Grimpy,
Yes.
Friedland, yes. Camardo,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Moving right along, we're into committee updates, and first up is the NSSCO update. Mr. Ronson, you are our representative.
Okay, so had a good productive meeting, I think, with Jody and Patty, too. Yeah, Patty. And we talked through, she sent out the articles of agreement for feedback. I don't know if anybody had a chance to review that and offer any feedback. I haven't seen anything.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. And then the next one was, part of what we're kind of working towards is trying to figure out what we are systematizing kind of the communication back to our member district and trying to get an idea for what kind of things that we would like to get board member feedback on. So there's some things we can talk about there. We also talked about having how frequently was the superintendent and rep meeting? So, yeah, basically to have, a quarterly internal meeting with District 26 with the superintendent, the board reps. We also think that having the backup is important. The assistant superintendent for business services and the assistant superintendent for student services, just to all get together and kind of huddle and talk over some things. Yeah, so we can kind of go back up, on this, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm jumping all over the place.
Okay.
It's,
It takes me. There we go. So I'll just speak on this really quick. So this was just the survey that I shared with y'all, and so it's mostly accurate because like Janine couldn't get hers to work, so I added hers by hand. Somebody completed it twice, so I went back through it and I got almost everybody's thoughts. But really, the big things that the majority of the board want feedback on are highlighted with the arrows. And really, it makes sense because it's,
they're basically big money things. Anything structural, whether that be governance or leadership, that's a structural change to me. Programming is a structural change. Like those would be things that it seems like the majority of the board would want to know about. So, and then obviously like capital projects, budget increases or reductions outside of what's budgeted to the extent possible. Big ticket items, types of things. Any question? Yeah.
So there were 6 items that had 50% vote, but you just highlighted 2.
Yeah,
What was
and
the-
that's
how do you set
partially
those two
because
aside?
somebody completed it twice and said the same things. So if I take those responses off of there, it would only be 3. Yeah. And I
So the
couldn't
2
go in
arrows
and
were legit
edit.
for the, okay.
Yes. So I took out anything that was doubled. So like the 4th one down, additional withdrawal of member districts, like that was a unique selection, so I kept it at 4. But the ones below that are also at 4,
Those
it
are
was a
dupes.
double answer from the
Got it.
same person. So,
Okay.
yeah, sorry. It wasn't the best data set, but I didn't want to not give you anything.
No, but
Yeah.
that's fine. Answered it perfectly.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? No? Good. Okay. Yeah, and,
Okay, cool.
yeah, as you say, as Robert mentioned, I thought this was a great idea. It's just, having a regular meeting, what do we say, maybe quarterly, or it just depends maybe what's going on, but, Ryan's in the finance meeting, Carrie's in the program meeting with most of the SPED directors, but having the alternate perhaps, and the NSSCO rep and myself, and the other 2, like, all sitting down, so we're just on the same page with the big ticket items that are going on. Did you have anything to add? No?
No, I thought that was a good idea.
Oh. Yeah, we did that. Okay. So, some of the things that we left our meeting with, one was a board report template of sorts, something that Robert could use to either, take notes or jot down things that hopefully we can get into the board report so that you guys can get eyes on it ahead of time. That may trigger more discussion, that may trigger questions, but I think ultimately will help the rest of the board engage on some of those topics that I think it would help give Robert some direction and or insight into what are some of the things that you all want more information on or not. I think it's a starting point.
So just to back up a little bit on the feedback portion, I think that one question that I have too is that for certain things we vote on, like we vote for the budget, we vote for the amended budget,
Wait, would you say we, us or
Us.
the NSSU?
both. Okay,
Right.
so we vote, so how like the budget works right now is the NSSEO, like we do, votes to put together the budget, there's all these 15 steps before it gets basically approved to be transmitted to the member districts. That's how it's communicated.
Okay.
It goes to the member districts then vote on it and take a formal vote, and then the NSSEO board votes on behalf of our member votes. That, along with the budget amendment, are really the only things right now that get voted on in a formal sense. So one question is, this is feedback, and again, don't think of it as just me, and don't think of it as yourself. We're trying to leave behind a process. So what things do you think it's appropriate for the home, remember that there's kind of three options. What do we want to vote for as a home board? What do you want to delegate to the NSSEO rep? And what do you just not want to know about? Or what do you maybe want some communication on? So those are kind of the three or four areas. So if there's anything in there that you think you want to vote on,
I took maybe I looked at it, so we're on the same page. When I looked at it as what do I want more communication from the rep on? I don't know that any of them require a vote, maybe like a straw poll, except for the budget stuff where we have to vote or we've always put it on. But my opinion is if you want feedback about what we want, or you could share out even with the report or at the meeting, I think those are the biggest ticket things
okay,
that I
yeah,
would
I can work on that, and I
give
think
feedback.
as part of doing this, I think we want to try to memorialize some of these things.
Yeah.
So we can,
I kind of saw it not the same process, but similar to the Triple I conference when we're then those are specific things that we're taking a straw poll on. But these ones, if you're I would like feedback. We're changing the governance structure. Well, then we give you feedback, and you could take a straw poll about how you feel, and then vote that way.
I would like to comment that when we get the budget, there's budget rationale, just like when Ryan puts together the budget, he says, the budget is, then there's so much for CPI, so much for payback to the county. There's also curriculum changes, leadership changes, teachers who leave and then new teachers who come in. So a lot of that there would be covered in a budget. When you bring a budget to us, the rationale, you would, if there's a change in leadership, it would be part of the budget. If there's a change in the government structure or the addition or withdrawal of what is the rest of it? Member districts, oh, big deal, yes, I was here for that. Yes, that's something that we would vote on, but it's also something that's put in the budget when it's brought to us to vote on, just like our budget.
okay, so we get a full copy of the budget and the amended budget. Are you looking specifically for more context from me, a presentation expectation from the administration over there?
Presentation.
Because that's where I'm going, is I'm trying to get the administration from NSSEO to do like a road show and come around and explain to us all.
Right.
And we got that going this year, and it was kind of the alpha,
Right.
version 1, so,
Right.
I want to see that develop, but that was my thought.
It would be, I would rather hear from the NSSEO administration if there's an additional withdrawal of membership and not from our rep. Government structure, I'd like to hear from them. Actually, all of that there. They should be here telling us why, and they used to. I will tell you that. If there were any big things going on, the superintendent, and not necessarily the finance person, but somebody else would come, pass out the budget, and talk to us, just like Ryan does.
Okay, but, okay, so a lot of that detail
Yeah.
we get in the board meeting. Okay,
You get in the board.
I get in the board meeting, which, hang on, is publicly open.
Right.
You can attend, you can listen to, there's meeting notes, all that kind of stuff. I'm all for having the administration come out and do a presentation at least once a year. I wanna be careful about duplication,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have to delegate some authority here to people just in general. We can't have 8 boards all involved and a governing board involved with making decisions on every single topic, right? So we gotta delineate a little bit.
No, when I say a presentation, I mean the presentation with the budget
Okay,
and their rationale of, in this budget, is the withdrawal of this member.
yeah, but I don't, yeah, I think some of that stuff can happen out of cycle too, though. But I hear what you're saying.
Okay, so if it's happening on a cycle, then it falls on the NSSEO rep, our rep,
Yes,
to inform us of
Absolutely.
any of those other things.
okay, and then I would maybe say that we could add to kind of some, again, a process document here, that at any time our board can request of either the NSSEO administration to come do a presentation, not demand, request.
Mhm.
So if there's something that is not getting from the board rep to here, then this board, of course, should know that we have the ability to say, hey, can you please, and that might inform you that the board rep's doing not a great job, and some information's not coming through, that a process is being missed, or that just more information is requested because they feel that there's some concern.
And Robert and I completely agreed that the budget presentation could have more detail in it,
Right.
so that you are aware, starting off the year, of the ins and outs of the budget. Where could we make cuts, or what are some of the, I forgot the word, the unexpected things that could come up this year? Just more depth to it. And then as the year goes on, this board report template, like, it has a section for Robert to share any meeting items with financial implications to the district that are outside of that budget presentation. So, that would be anything that would come up suddenly that wasn't planned for in the budget. Because we don't wanna have another board meeting within the board meeting.
Right.
The rep is going to do that with NSSEO, but when these things come up that may not have been budgeted for, or somebody leaves, or they're going, who knows? Those would be the things that he could bullet point in this report. The next section is like upcoming decisions, votes to watch, which again, I don't need to know about everything they're voting on, but what votes are they thinking about, or what's coming up that could have implications for our district? Then there's like any follow-up, a section for follow-up, or any questions, and then any other like notes. So it's a half a page, but that's kind of what we kind of started with, to see how that flow of information would work. And maybe after a couple of months, you guys might feel like, okay, we're getting exactly what we want, or we're not getting enough, or this is too much, and we can kind of.
But, and I think part of our thought process, or really your thought process, was that this kind of template can kind of be, it's part of the process, right? That it shows these are the areas that the board is requesting communication on. So that's,
And we'd be happy to share it with other reps too further.
well, see, this is part of the challenge, right? Is that everybody's trying to figure this all out. And you have, even within the NSSEO governing board, you have some districts that are, like, they might choose to vote on it, they might choose to have a board meeting within a board meeting, which I think is insane, but whatever. They also might just say, hey, board rep, we trust you, go make your decisions, we don't care. Okay? They might find some middle ground. I think middle ground's the right answer. I think we're all in general agreement there, but we're trying to find a sustainable middle ground. Not one where we get into 2 board meetings for everything, and not one where it's just, hey, everything's hunky-dory, or look what this kid did. You know, there's the business of the board and of the organization that is a co-op here. So I think we're all on the same page, and I would love to take this, whether that comes through the superintendents or through us, to say, hey, look what we did, and show this off as this is our process, and then, you know, some of this might have to start coming from NSSEO to say, hey, this is how we recommend you, it's in the hairy stuff, right? Because you don't want the NSSEO administration or the NSSEO governing board telling home boards what to do. That make sense? So it's all like, it's a complicated thing here, but we can certainly offer recommendations, templates, and procedures for things.
Can I ask a question about the template? Will this be filled out and then added to the board book? So that
That's the idea.
Okay, so then when Patty releases the board book on a regular Friday, if we have any questions, we would just email you, and then the answers would go to the board, or how do you wanna handle that?
Well, first of all, before Patty sends it out, she's gonna have to send me 2 to 3 emails reminding me to do it. I'm just kidding. No, but I'm gonna have to get that in before the board book is published, so it can be part of the packet. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say I was open for discussion.
Yeah, and then
Sometimes we get questions that it's like, hey, FYI, we can talk about this at the board meeting, but it gives you time to process through the questions. Or if it's just a quick, I would say follow the same format that we do now. When you have questions, shoot it out to Robert and I, and would he copy Bill on it? And
Nope,
then
can't do that.
we
Can't do that.
respond.
Because then you go to 3.
No, it's just you.
Well, it's just you.
George.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jody's
No, but if you have a question and you send it to Jody and I, you can't include Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Correct,
Because the
but the-
normal
but-
process is to include Jody.
correct, but the way that we do it is when you answer, like one,
The way that we do is when you answer, if one gets it, we all get it. So even if Donna asks you a question, the answer would be blind copied to the rest of the board.
Okay, so the
So then I
guidance,
would then see her question and your answer.
okay, so then the guidance is if you have questions, you send it to me and you copy Jody.
Yeah,
No,
no, not me.
can't do it, because then you're open
Yeah.
meetings. Then you bring it
And
up.
then the
and-
responses, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Because I'll get the response, the board president will get the response if that person doesn't ask the question, they will see the response.
Okay, and then do I copy the board as a
You would
whole?
blind copy the
Okay,
board.
which I'd never have loved that process, but is there somehow that answer gonna get back into the board packet then, or?
No, because even our questions, even if we ask the Jody's team, those answers don't get in the board book, that's just stuff that we discussed previously.
Yeah, and sometimes we just use them also because it's a blind spot that we have when we're presenting or putting out the information. So it's like, oh, that's a good point, we will include that as part of the presentation or add it.
Okay, so when I respond, I will copy the board, the BCC the board.
Correct.
Okay.
Perfect, that's what I was hoping to hear.
all practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the details we gotta work out, so.
Sure.
it's a good stepping point, starting point.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys for working on this.
Yeah.
I will add one thing, or a couple things, sorry. So our agenda for the next meeting is for the NSSEO governing board to review the articles of agreement. So other than some general typos and some kind of high-level stuff, general feedback here is that it's pretty good where it stands. Okay, I will put out there that I think the process right now is that the NSSEO governing board is getting all their feedback from the member districts, and then we're gonna talk about it as a group with the NSSEO board. But then the next meeting, the superintendents are also going to join, and they're going to discuss any changes that they would like. My question, well, so you guys have all known what's kind of been going on behind the scenes at NSSEO. There's been an interest of having there's been ideas floated about a 2-tier governance setup. There's been, just a lot of recommended changes. And I'm open to those things and wanting to listen to what other people's, I'm certainly open to other contributions, especially from our superintendents or from our member districts. I personally, and this is where I need some guidance, I'm pretty against anything that diminishes the responsibility of the governing board from either a governance or from an oversight perspective. I'm all for more participation, I'm all for delegation, but some of the initial floats were to take the governing board down to like 4 meetings a year, and to have them basically doing doing policy approvals, doing budget approvals, there was a separation. We saw that memo earlier this year, and I know a couple of you have come out and attended our meetings. Again, we're one of 8, right? I want this to be a consensus, I want it to work, I think everybody involved wants it to work, but I'm gonna tell you, there's definitely some different ideas out there about how an SSEO should work. I will also say that this is, really, it's an important topic, because there is a general kind of, I don't know if you've been following the news, but True North has had quite a bit of changes, to a point where they have 18 member districts, and a quarter or 3/4 of them have pulled out now. Okay, and they have a history that goes back of, they've been making changes they made some changes to the governing board. They tried a 2-tier governing structure. Right now, I think they've had like a couple of superintendents on it and the governing board, and granted 18 people or 18 member districts, that's a lot of cooks or chefs in the kitchen. I guess I can't say that there has been some, there's been some initial discussions from some of those member districts that are leaving True North about services from NSSEO. I don't know if that means membership or just additional services from NSSEO, but there's that kind of stuff going out there. I reached out to a superintendent from a member district over there that I know through business relationships, and it was an interesting conversation. It was a lot of the same stuff that we're having, and it really, a lot of it, I still argue, comes down to just there was a degradation in trust over the years between the member districts and the co-op. There was frustration over, a lot of it comes down to money, whether it's real or imagined or perceived or whatever it was. I definitely think that their scale at 18 member districts was just, that's again, too many cooks or chefs in the kitchen. Or, any board, right, like if we doubled the size of this group, that's a lot of opinions. And you got one more person that talks as much as I do. But I thought there was too much bureaucracy there too, so as we're adding more people to this too, I'm conscious of just trying to ensure that the bureaucracy doesn't get overburdening for anybody. And like my desire to hold on to, a certain amount of governing board meetings and oversight and responsibility is not about building bureaucracy. It's just about, I think, about a role and a position of representation of member districts and taxpayers. But I know there's a lot of different opinions out there. There's a lot of different ideas. So, I don't know. I certainly don't want to see the organization, well, I don't care. If the right answer is to dissolve NSSEO at some point, fine. If that's what's the best decision for everybody, or for our district, and for our kids, then so be it. But, or if it's, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm open to things, but I'm also very much thinking about, and I think everybody is, about trying to sustain, generally the current co-op as it is, and to just improve its operations, improve some, projections around, capital planning for facilities. That's a big driver of this, is the facilities it just hasn't been budgeted for or planned for, and it's built up as an expense. Any feedback or?
So I'm looking at the top, the way it's written in the board book. It says future topic. Does that mean this will come up for a future conversation and topic later, or is tonight the night that we're doing all this?
So this was the future topic that was requested.
Okay.
Was it last month?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay,
So this is the
future
response to that future topic that was requested.
Okay, so then.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, so this is why we're trying to develop a system, so that as months roll,
Right.
we're hitting what's been requested, we're hitting that.
Okay. So, the item that we approved earlier, wasn't that the board, wasn't that the agreement?
No, that basically, for lack of a better term, it's
Sorry. That basically what that says is a resolution is that the
You
The
have to
rep,
vote the way
which-
we want you to vote,
I
okay.
didn't even be proud, because that's
So
what we're supposed to be doing anyway.
yeah.
Okay, got it,
Like, if I'm
Okay.
going rogue or somebody else is going rogue, that's a problem, right?
Sure.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and then just what was requested as the future topic was, that agreement was very broad, it just saying, items of a substantial number, or something like that. So we wanted to bring clarity to what are those substantial items, like,
Okay.
what does this board deem, important enough
Okay,
to make sure that you know, so that the rep can represent this board
okay.
accurately.
So we did that then, we've done that in that chart there, okay?
That's
Yes,
right.
I think that has given us some direction to start with.
Okay, so then I don't need to say it.
Yeah, and I think the deliverables out of this are going to be the template for communication. And maybe, we talked about maybe something when we say, here's the committee assignment, that here's the responsibilities. And that
Sure.
you
More
accept,
defined.
yeah, if you accept the NSSEO committee assignment, then here's your requirements. You know, which we don't have, like, mostly they're unstructured, right? But this one would have some specifics to say, this is what we need back from you if you do this, which honestly we probably should have for other committees too, but.
I think,
Well, I think it's different because, because
We have
it's,
charters about the other committees.
right. Well, and it's an external meeting versus internal meeting, so we have a much easier way of relaying information when we're on our own committees. Like NSSEO is just a very special little niche, so, but no, I appreciate your input, Robert, and like, I know that there's been a paradigm shift, I think, like in terms of special education and outplacing students, so I'm interested to see where it goes, but I think NSSEO is vital to our learners, so, yeah, I understand the commentary of like wherever this goes, it goes, but they're around for a very long time. So, but I know that there has been a shift to pulling students back into the district just for financial reasons and specific support pieces. So, thank you for doing all this work. And thank you, Jim.
Anything else? That it? Okay, thank you. Next up is our Public Relations Committee. We had a meeting tonight. Give an update.
Yes, and mine is way easier than Robert's. So we are talking about some PR. We had a very productive meeting, just going over what has worked in the past and then looking towards this coming year. Agreeing on a couple of things, particularly around brewing with the board. And we had done it a couple of different ways. First it was monthly, then we had reduced it to quarterly, so now looking at it from a perspective of going on the road, very similar to what we saw with the village board of Mount Prospect, looking at maybe some community events and having outreach that way. So we're gonna be sending some ideas to Jody and working through some possible events that we can look at getting both the board and the superintendent out and about. Two things that were mentioned, the IG ribbon cutting, September 16th, that we have finalized. And then also looking at the Link for the Dogs coming out and then what that looks like for next year, really revisiting that and talking about that. A couple of other thoughts or things that really are already going on in the district, which is really nice to hear. The Boxwood Bash, and so possibly having some additional participation from the board on that. And then talking about other activities that we can do within both the district and maybe in partnership with our sister district as well. So I know that's something that's going to be brought up later, a little bit of expanding on that. Did I miss anything?
graduation speech?
Oh, yes, graduation speech. So, we were talking about who would be doing the graduation speech for next year. I am more than comfortable to do it, but I also wanted to throw it out to anybody who may have a graduate that may be interested in doing that address, because that sometimes is an emotional thing, but I don't know if, you know, I don't wanna take that away from somebody who may be a parent of aggression.
Possibly.
Obviously, we're very
Second.
early, so we can circle back on this.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the.
Let me just get through
negotiation.
negotiations.
Before the programs
Yeah, a
are
couple other, right.
Yeah, just before the programs are printed.
Perfect.
So the conversation was, you know, I definitely feel comfortable, but I would like to extend that to anybody who does have a graduate that may want to participate in that as well. Yes, so it could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on that.
If I could get through it. Anything else?
That was it.
Awesome, okay. All right, next up is the president's report. Before I get to our upcoming events, one of the things that did come out of our meeting with the mayor was I had asked them for an update on the project along Kensington. They were going to be replacing the sidewalk and the stairs by the railroad tracks, because clearly our students can't ride their bike unless they go into Kensington, unless they're gonna lift their bike up the stairs with their backpack and all that other stuff. So I did get some emails, if I could just go over them really quickly with you. This is from the village engineer. They are on schedule to begin construction in the fall 2026 with completion by the end of the year. They admit it's been a long, slow process because they've had to work with both IDOT and the Canadian National Railroad. Federal and state grant funds are being used to offset the construction costs, which creates additional red tape. But the engineering plans are currently being finalized, and then they get approved by IDOT and then the railroad, and then the scope can start. So they're going to be removing the stairs and the sidewalk between the tracks and Burning Bush Lane, replacing them with a 10-foot wide shared use path. And that's also going to include new pedestrian crossing gates at the tracks. So the website that they have on, or the village website, does not have any updates since 2021. So they've volunteered to share updates with me, which then I will share with the board and obviously the public if anyone wants to, if anyone watches our meetings. So I'll add that to my updates as I get them. Next up is district news and board meeting dates. We've got an Ed Red breakfast on August 1st. If you're going to go to that, please register or let Patty know so she could register you. Either way works. The principals and assistant principals will return on August 4th. Mr. Timmons gets to do construction until his office is ready, so be looking forward to that. The policy committee meeting is happening on August 12th at 6:30. Here, and just that'll be before our next board meeting, which is also on August 12th, which will be at 7 o'clock. If there's a closed session, are we going to move the policy committee meeting? Are the times kind of tentative?
I mean, we could do closed session after.
Okay. And then the last thing I have is, so District 57 participates in the 4th of July parade. With Mount Prospect, they have a float which is pulled by the Public Works Department, and what happens is their board throws their kiddos on the little float, and then they walk and toss out candy. They've kind of invited us if we'd like to take part, because it's not a very big float. Obviously, we have a full year to discuss this, but the invite has been made, so just something to think about, which we can punt back to the policy, or you know what I mean? PR committee meeting. But just something to think about. We did do it a number of years ago. We had like 75 people, but we wouldn't be at that scope. It would just be the board, and you know, if you want to throw a kiddo on the float or something.
So how many children are you looking for?
I mean, I think it's just if my kids wanted to participate in the float or in the parade, but not walk it.
Okay, so you're looking for this to be a board sponsor?
Correct. It's not the community. It's not
the-
our students. It's not organizations.
So the teachers don't have to.
Correct. It would just be the 7 of us, and if you're
If we're
or
in
Joey
town,
would like
yeah.
to as well,
Okay,
because their soup does do it as well. No pressure.
okay. So it would, so at that point, yes, then we'd have the float. So how would they do that? Okay, I'm not gonna go into.
They would just change the sign, and it would say District 26 and 57 Board of Education.
Okay, got it.
Right now, it just says District
We
56.
have to do our own. No.
No, you pay for the float, you pay to rent the float.
I know, but
No,
you know, we
actually,
could,
They don't,
buildings
they
should
don't,
pay.
they don't,
They don't?
they don't charge them.
Wow, we paid last time. How about we decorate the electric bus?
That'd be cute.
Then it's up to the PR committee.
Whoa,
I think
If
it's
it-
all of
I mean, it's not,
So
it's,
if
no, yeah, it's not,
if it's a board sponsored thing.
then we gotta pay a driver to drive it.
Oh, okay.
No, you're not driving the bus.
we got somebody who could, oh, come on.
Couldn't the pigeon drive the
Yeah,
bus?
next week.
I mean, it's, couldn't you?
Couldn't the pigeon drive the bus?
I like the idea of the bus, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Could we take the top off of it?
I mean, we could also use our bus and invite them and still do the same thing.
Well, I
Because they
think-
don't have an electric bus, so we can just
Ours does say.
rub it in their face.
Yeah, ours does say River
And I'm
Trail.
kidding anybody who watches.
Yeah,
We could decorate.
We did, and we
Well,
couldn't do it right.
you could do a little decorating, but it already says River Trail.
Just 'cause we're on
It's an
record.
electric bus, or, you know, we could have a banner that says, this is an,
Just because
are
we're
we
on,
the only electric bus in the village of Mount Prospect?
You know, I don't know about 23 or 214 or,
Okay,
so-
but anyways,
I do want to say we're on record for like the shortest meeting ever, so let's kick this down the road to our
Hunting back.
We got it here,
And
we
got
got,
it.
we got it
We got it.
here.
Okay, PR committee has taken that back.
Someone on float.
My ice cream is melting. Moving. I will take it back.
All right, next up is the superintendent's report. Dr. Megley, you've got the floor. No pressure, but we're doing well here.
Okay, just read the slide deck, I have goals and strategic planning, and that's it. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is important, I like this part of my job. Okay.
Take your time.
Take your time.
So,
don't ask questions.
yes. Okay, so, starting off with the goals for the year. A lot of these slides you have seen before, so I am going to bounce through them. I had brought these slides, 3, 4, and 5. I'm sorry, Patty, we're both, yes, so, slide 3, slide 4, 5, and 6. Basically are the goals from the last 3 years. And so I had brought those last year because I wanted you to see the expansion of those goals from the start 3 years ago. And so they remain consistent, and our work, I think, from 3 years ago, we've definitely expanded on and built upon that original set of goals. So I wanted to leave that in there so you could kind of continue to see that progression. So going into this year, the goal remains the same. Our foundational goal remains the same, simultaneously strengthening and anchoring existing practices into standard organizational systems while addressing lagging or missing components in order to drive student growth. So what's new this year are 2 additional non-negotiables, as I would call it, that just built upon the progress that we've made and push us further toward that. In my mind, I'm working towards sustainability and institutionalizing the work. Again, building systems and going deeper rather than lots of new. So looking at the first non-negotiable, it's spiraling back with purpose. So this is really intentionally returning to that prior work. So I don't want my admin or my teachers to think like, oh, we talked about something 3 years ago, and that was 3 years ago, and now we've moved on. But we've been building. So intentionally returning to that prior work and those practices to ensure clarity, consistency, and full implementation. We, as an admin team, are reading the trust book this summer, and it talks a lot about, like, one of the pillars is clarity. One of the pillars is consistency. And so using that book, and I mean, those pillars are great. We talked about that as a board. You know, these are foundational items to use in work and in your own life. And so it definitely supports that work. So over time, as you know, like even well-launched initiatives can drift They can become uneven, they can lose traction, and so I want to make sure that we are revisiting those key practices. We're not starting over, we're just reinforcing and deepening what works. I mean, you guys have seen us make some really great progress over the years, and so that really is the theme of this spiraling back. So this will help us continue to close gaps in understanding, support staff who may be newer or might need additional clarity again, and then just making sure that our systems are not just introduced but really embedded across the district. So that's the first non-negotiable. And the next one is leading from the classroom. And so the intention there is just ensuring that the leaders are consistently present in classrooms, that they're deeply engaged in our instructional core. Instructional leadership has to be rooted firsthand of exactly what is happening in the classrooms. What does our teaching and learning actually look like across the district? I don't want surface level impressions like, oh, I know what's going on in that classroom, or I've walked by that classroom. I really want them to be leading from the classroom. We want them to be using multiple sources of evidence, classroom observations, student outcomes, staff feedback, staff peer-to-peer feedback. And I think when we have those multiple sources of evidence, we are better equipped to support our teachers, give meaningful feedback, and make informed decisions. So this year, our theme as we roll into the new year is really, it's called like opening the door to your mindset, opening the door to your classroom, really just like opening the door. And so creating that culture where instructional work is visible, it's collaborative, it's responsive. Visibility builds trust, it elevates our practice and reinforces the teaching and learning, which is at the center of everything we do. So I was not comfortable just piggybacking the same goal over, but again, wanted to just level it up and go deeper to continue the great work we've been doing. Any questions about that?
So for the, oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to make a comment. This is really wonderful because I don't know if everybody had a chance to read the Illinois Association Journal that came a couple weeks ago or just this week. But there's an article in there on teacher burnout. And one of the comments was that administrators aren't asking for feedback. They're not allowing teachers to do peer-to-peer feedback. And the teachers are always overwhelmed because every year there's something new we gotta learn, something new. And I like the idea here that we're going back and revisiting practices and things that we have introduced to the teachers so that they can give us their feedback. And the article is a very good article. I don't know if it was an article or somebody was.
I think it was like an opinion piece.
Or whatever, but nonetheless, this piggybacks right into it, and kudos to us for being ahead of it. And kudos to you for making this your strategic plan.
I won't talk too much because Donna took most of what I wanted to say. I just, great minds think alike. But I love, because after going through our curriculum audit and implementing a lot of new programming over the course of the last few years, I love that this is something that isn't necessarily new, but it's a chance to kind of just relook, reevaluate, kind of really dig in for the teachers, for people who are getting more experience, who can help with like instructional coaching and things like that. So I appreciate it a lot, because it's tough when you have something new thrown at you, and then, or not thrown at you, even when you're part of the process. Yeah. There's a lot of newness that you have to figure out. So,
Great comments and questions, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, one more.
Go ahead.
Same as these guys. I really like the non-negotiables and the goal areas and the emphasis and the focus. For the individual school principal presentations coming up this year, I know Karen specifically mentioned in her presentation how she was spiraling back with purpose. than hers. But I think if each of the principals could acknowledge what they've done or plan to do
Yeah.
in their upcoming year, that specifically addresses each of these non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job because they always start off like tying back to the strategic plan, like that's in everyone, it's kind of routine. But to specifically address these, and the entire presentation, I don't think needs to be around it at all, but some level just
Yeah,
connecting.
right. It
Just to
should
complete the
easily
circle.
connect,
Yes.
to what they're doing, so, yeah, great suggestion.
But I like it.
Anybody else? Okay, this will appear in the consent agenda for our August meeting, just so everyone's aware, and then that's when it will get approved. Next up is strategic plans, still you.
Okay, so, all right, so I'm really excited to launch this strategic plan process. This has been rolling around in my brain for probably 2 years now, so to get it down on paper, I've walked through it, the structure with the admin team in June, and I think I excited them, so that's even better. So here's my visual. So the planning process that I have in mind is best visualized as an hourglass. Okay, so beginning wide, narrowing in, and then expanding out again. So this process starts with 5 analysis steps. So they're broad by design, gathering input, gathering data and perspectives to understand our current state. And I'll dig into each of these levels in a few slides here. So this is just kind of the overview. And so through each step, we're gonna narrow the focus, condense, filter, deepen the information, and then identify the most crucial insights and needs, which is kind of that centerpiece. And then from there, you shift into the formulation process, the formulation steps. So you take that analysis and then you intentionally expand on it. And so then from there, you're building out a detailed, responsive, actionable plan. Okay? So, so in each phase, you're adding structure and specificity. Okay, so it's just your overview. So I've broken down the details coming up here. Next is our current mission and vision. I am proposing that we intentionally preserve this. I feel like they continue to reflect who we are as a district and what we aspire to become. I hear it in interviews, it's anchored in our presentation, like it really is who we are. The admin specifically asked about, are we gonna redo our mission? And I said, I don't think it would be of benefit for us to do that, because I feel like, again, it still represents who we are. So I am proposing keeping our vision and mission intact, and then continuing to use that as a springboard for our strategic plan. So the purpose of this process, like I don't want to reinvent our identity, I want to build on it with clarity and coherence. And so with this approach, the goal is to be, the goal I have in mind is just to avoid being overwhelmed with like an endless stream of internal and external inputs, or ending up with like a scattered list of disconnected items, initiatives. And so with this process, it's really beginning with that strategic vision that's internally consistent, and then each step of the process is designed to align to that vision. So moving on to the next, so these are those steps, and it kind of breaks it down a little bit more in terms of what happens in each step. So right now, we're currently in step 1. So Cabinet is actively gathering data that represents the story of our district, who we are, our strengths, our challenges, our areas of opportunity. So we have been working on that throughout the course of the summer. We've asked the principals to also, like we kind of gave them a little bit of a script, like tell the story of your building. Come to the August meeting with this narrative that we cannot pull from data. So in my mind, this is like a dissertation. And this is the research part of it. And so you've got your qualitative information and you've got your quantitative. And so the principals can tell the story of their building that we can't pull from a chart. And I think that is going to be equally important for us to really know where we are and where we want to go. So, moving into, we have a mock data review scheduled for next week, so that's just cabinet, that's our practice. And then we have a full day session on August 8th dedicated to steps 2 and 3. So that's strategic analysis, strategic insight, and A and B. So during steps 2 and 3, we'll be analyzing and interpreting the data. And that team is small. So we are intentionally not opening it up right now to the full community to say, dream big and tell me what you want in river trails of everything that exists in the world. We are taking our data and we are going to shape and look at what we're doing well in, what we're missing, and we're going to use that then to craft the questions and the focus groups that we want to get input on. So we're starting big with the data, but we are funneling it, we're narrowing it, so that we are specifically crafting questions for the stakeholders. So that'd be like that second half of the day, 3B. What are the right questions to ask so that we get input that is meaningful and it's actionable, specific to River Trail School District. So the goal there is to ensure that our feedback really informs a plan that reflects our unique context and needs. Okay, so it's a little bit different. So in that day on August 8th, I would love to have a couple board members as part of that team. So think about that. Again, I know that's an all-day meeting, so I know it doesn't fit in everyone's schedule, but I would love for a couple board members to be part of that process on that day. Okay. So once that is complete, like that is a big nugget of analyzing our data. So once that's complete, we will launch our stakeholder engagement. So that's when we start putting out surveys. We start meeting with focus groups, parents, teachers, etc. We'll define who those focus groups are, what are the right questions, and that will last over the course of a couple of months. Once we get all that feedback, so I'm thinking like November-ish, we will identify themes and insights from that data. So again, narrowing the hourglass, getting to that middle piece. Part of that is, I don't know if you're familiar with SWOT and PEST, I apologize for the acronyms, but a SWOT process is really looking at strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So that looks at that internal and external factors that are specific to river trails. And then a PEST is like the political, economic, social, technological, which looks a little bit more outside of like the environmental factors that influence like just the industry as a whole.
I could have gone with like STEP.
Yes. I didn't design that one. So then, from there, step 5, then we start beginning the work of formulating the actual plan. So expanding on that focused analysis, we're putting that into an actionable roadmap. So we start by identifying the district's key priorities, define the key performance indicators, and then the strategies needing to achieve them. So now here's the hourglass expanding again because we're getting broader. So that'll lead to, hopefully, again, the roadmap, creating a monitoring structure, a reporting tool so that we can track progress over time. I would love to get that tool up on our website so that it's visible. It's easy to read, it's easy for us to follow, and I can easily report out to you all. So yeah, again, 1 or 2 board members to be part of that early process on August 8th, and then again to come back and start working on that priority and goal development. So I will put a note in the weekly update, and I will link this also in there if you want to look at it again after I've explained it. We also, as kind of an aside, but we have been we've had a membership, we've been a partner with a group called EAB for, 5 years now, 4 or 5 years? And so initially, our membership consisted of a couple of different things. So they offered professional development, they offered research, they offered a lot of great things, but they have definitely expanded their offerings. So one of which is support with strategic planning. So I actually have like a consultant from EAB who's going to be working with us on different components of the strategic plan with like no additional costs. So that's really great. They have worked with some local other districts, and so I've reached out to them prior to get feedback on that. So yeah, all part of the membership. And again, I had no idea that they would have done that until I said I no longer want to be a member, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, we can help you with this." But no, so that's good.
This is not critical, but
Yeah.
just if you want to update your dates.
Yes, 26. Thank you. I'm still living
No, I know, I am too. I saw it and I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
in. Yeah,
But-
thank you. Okay, questions? I know that was a lot. It's kind of hard to follow, perhaps, but
No, I think that this was
Question
really
I-
well laid out.
The only question I have is there anything in negotiations that could alter this timeline? And I don't even know that answer, I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
I mean, anything could alter the timeline, really. I mean, so it's really just a roadmap for now, and I'll keep it updated and change if we need to. I mean,
So if something were to come up, we can
Yeah.
alter it, and it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's very thorough. I really appreciate the work you've done. I appreciate your enthusiasm for it too.
well, and I know it's a little bit different of a process than what we did the last time. And again, I wasn't here for that, but I was hired, so I attended a couple of different things. So it really is kind of more of a flip where we're narrowing before we're seeking input from the community. So again, just a little bit different of approach, but I don't know. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Well, I think the other process was, we hadn't done one in a while, right? So this is like, how can we build on what, like you said, what you've already, we've made an investment in that, and now we've completed it, and now this is the next phase.
So this is very good. Extremely curriculum focused. Are there any other elements like either like administrative efficiencies or kind of things on that side, or facilities specific to the middle school that should be part of this?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't solely curriculum, like we are looking at everything.
I'm reading it
So,
as
finances, we're pulling communication data, like how many clicks parents click on things, so it's everything. I got Christy pulling data, I got Carrie pulling data, I got Ryan pulling data. But yeah, it's all facets, all operations
Okay,
of the district.
perfect.
Yeah.
I would like to comment that I'm really glad to hear you keeping the mission and vision. I was part of the strategic plan when we came up with the mission and the vision, and these all came out way before even Dr. Wagner. So this was right at the beginning of Dr. Deli's administration, and I cannot tell you the animosity that was in the group that was putting together the mission statement because of this word I don't like and this one I do. We had to segregate them off into their own little room and let them duke it out. And even after they duked it out, Dr. Deli said, "No, we can't use that word. That doesn't just flow." And he just changed it, because we would have been going on forever. This mission statement, Deli was here for 10 years. Wagner was here for 5. So, and you've been here now 3?
Yeah.
So this mission statement and vision has held us and has done the job, and there really is no need to change it. So kudos to you for making that executive decision out behind you.
Well, and it still accurately represents us as well.
Yes, yes. Now, I just wanted to ask you about this vision, this hourglass thing. Was this something you came up with?
Okay, so,
Cause
like I said, it's rolling around in my mind. This is actually how things happen a lot. And so as I describe it, Christy says, oh, it's like an hourglass. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. So then I research hourglass framework, and it's actually a thing. So then I go back to our office and I'm like, how did you know that? Like, how did you know that that was actually a thing? Well, I didn't, but that's just how you described it. So that's what my team does for me. I rattle out my ideas and then they shape it for me. But yeah, I mean, it really was almost like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what it is. But it is a thing.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if you came up with that, then you need to go on the road and teach people how to do.
Well, I did in relation to the
Totally you got it.
strategic planning, so I might be, if anybody needs help with, no.
I like it, it's very nice, and I'm a visual person, and I understood exactly how this was working, so I really love it. Thank you.
I go to work and tell people my ideas, they tell me how crazy I am. Glad you have a better reception.
Anybody else? Any questions, comments before we move on? All right, then we will move on.
This is gonna be an action item in the future, there's really nothing, just, okay.
I mean, well, not.
I think the only action item would be,
To accept it.
to accept the when it's all finished.
Yep.
Mhm.
Totally with it.
All right, policy, communications to the board. We did have one, we had a family reach out looking for some district recognition. That's been answered and replied to. We had 2 FOIA requests. Thank you guys for taking care of that. Next up is future topics. Does anybody have anything they would like to present for future consideration? Okay, hearing none. Let me entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Johnson, second by Ronstadt. Gesundheit. Ditto.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Friedland, yes, Brinkley.
Yes.
We are adjourned at
We're
8:16.
adjourned at 8:15. Alright, next board meeting is August 12th, back here at the middle school.
So close.
We'll see you then.
I'm calling it 8:16.
Bob, I put you on that, right?